Hello everyone and welcome to J-Hook Crochet and More. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful poncho that you can wear over a baby carrier. It has a nice turtleneck, very nice and warm, very cozy, and a hole where the baby's head comes through, so you can just wear it over your baby carrier and it keeps you and your baby warm together. So let's begin and I'll show you everything you need in order to make this beautiful poncho. Here are the materials we're going to need for this project. First of all, we're going to need some yarn, a lot of yarn, about 500 grams or 1,100 meters of any medium weight for yarn. I'm using this one. It's called Schnellstrickgarn. That's German for fast knitting yarn. Not sure exactly what that means. That's the name of this yarn. If you live in Europe, if you have access to a Woolworth, then you can get this yarn at Woolworth for 7.99 euros. Those are those 500 gram balls of yarn. They are huge, and you can get them in many different colors. 100% acrylic, 500 grams, about 1,100 meters in there. I'm using the color beige, if you want to look for exactly the same yarn as I'm using. So, any medium weight for, and you're going to need a 5mm crochet hook. So get your materials together and let's begin. We begin with a chain of 80 and we go back and we slip stitch back into the first chain. So we close our chain into a circle and we're going to work this project in the round. So the first row, to begin, you're going to chain one, and that chain one does not count as a stitch and will not count as a stitch for the remaining of our project. And we're going to double crochet back into that same stitch that we just started it. And now we're going to make one double crochet in every chain all the way around. So our first row is just one double crochet into each one of the chains. So just go and put one double crochet into each chain and I will meet you at the end of the row. So I'm coming to the end of my row. And at the end of the row, we want to slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet. Now, look at your first double crochet and please make sure that you slip stitch here into the top of the first double crochet and not into that chain one that we made in the beginning of the round. So slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet and that ends our first round. To go to the next round, once again we chain one, and as I've said, that does not count as a stitch. And this round we will work some front and back posts to give our collar a bit of a texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over and do a front post double crochet around the first stitch. And then yarn over and do a back post double crochet from the back around the post of the next stitch. Then yarn over, front post double crochet around the next stitch, and then back post double crochet around the next stitch. So that's just continue this way all the way around. Front post double crochet and then back post double crochet, and we do that for the entire round. Just continue till you get to the end of your round, and I will see you there to go to the next round. When you get to the end of the row, once again you slip stitch into the top of the very first double crochet that we made. That was that front post double crochet, and you slip stitch right back in there. So that's what our work looked like so far. And to go on to the next round, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do this again. We're going to repeat this last row that we made a few more times. So we're going to front post double crochet around the front post double crochets, and back post double crochets, crochet around all of our back post double crochets. So you just continue this way all the way around. Every time you get to a front post double crochet, you put a front post double crochet around it, and when you get to a back post double crochet, you put a back post double crochet around that one. And then you continue this way all the way around. And we're going to continue this pattern until our work measures about 6 to 7.5 centimeters, which is about 2.5 to 3 inches. And that is our collar. So if you like your collar a bit, it's going to be a sort of a turtleneck. So if you like it to be taller, then just continue crocheting these rows of back post and front post, back post double crochets until you get it to the length that you want. If you want it shorter, then just stop a little before. But I'm not going to say a number of rows because it all depends on the kind of yarn that you use and the kind of hook that you use. It needs to be about 6.5 to 7 centimeters, about 2.5 to 3 inches. That would be the ideal length of it. Again, if you like it longer or shorter, it's your decision. So just continue doing front post, back post, double crochets all the way around for as many rows as you need in order to get your collar, your turtleneck, the length that you wanted. And when you're done doing that, when you get to the length that you want, then we will meet up and I will show you how to continue making the body of our poncho. Okay, I finished my collar, and that's what it looks like. It's really nice. It's a little bit flexible. And now we move on to the body of our poncho. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, then we're going to put 1 double crochet back into that same stitch, and we're going to put 1 double crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. So including this one, we're going to have 9 double crochets. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So including the first one that we did, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 double crochets. And into the next stitch, we're going to increase. We're going to put 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So yarn over, go in, pull up a loop and do 1 double crochet, and then do the same again in the same stitch. So now we turned 10 stitches into 11. 1, look at this. This one is the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we're going to continue doing this all the way around. So 9 double crochets and in the 10th stitch we put 2 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and into the 10th stitch we put 2 double crochets. So just continue this way all the way around, and I will meet you at the end of the round. So I'm at the end of the round, and if you did this right, then your last stitch should be an increase stitch. So put 2 double crochets in there. And to finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of our very first double crochet, and that ends round 1. So we're going to call this round 1 of the body of the poncho. Okay, from now on, when I refer to the number of the rounds, I mean beginning with this round. Okay, so everything what we did until now, the color of the poncho is not, we're not counting that now. We're counting beginning with this row. This is row number 1, this increase row that we just did. This will be row number 1. And to go on to row number 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Okay, so for the next row, we're going to go back into that same stitch and put 1 single crochet in. And then we're going to put 1 single crochet in each one of the stitches all the way around. So that's 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way to the end of the row. So I'm coming to the end of my row. I'm going to put my last single crochet in the last stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet that I made. This was row number 2, so we're going to chain 1 and turn again. And for row number 3, we're going to make another increase row. So this time we're going to put 10 double crochets in a row, and into the 11th stitch we're going to increase. So we're going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet back into that very first stitch. So 1 double crochet. Then we need 10 in total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And into the next one, stitch number 11, we're going to do our increase. So 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And we're going to continue this way all the way around for the entire row. So we're going to put 10 double crochets, and into stitch number 11, we're going to increase and put 2 double crochets. So just do that all the way around, and I will meet you at the end of the row. At the end of row 3, your last stitch should once again be an increase stitch. So we're going to put 2 double crochets in there. And then we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet. And sorry, this ends row number 3. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and row 4 is once again going to be just 1 row of single crochets all the way around. So go back into the same stitch and put 1 single crochet in there, and then put 1 single crochet into each one of the stitches all the way around. At the end of the row, you slip stitch back into the first single crochet, chain 1 and turn, and then on every uneven row we continue increasing. So our increase row is a row of double crochets that every time we just add 1 stitch to our increase. That means on row number 1 we counted 9 double crochets and increased on the 10th. On row number 3 we counted 10 double crochets and we increased on stitch number 11. On row number 5 we will count 11 double crochets and increase on stitch number 12, and so on. And every even row is just a row of 1 single crochets all the way around. And we continue this way until our total of rows, starting with row 1, as we said, the first row that we count is this one, the first increase row that we did. So starting with row number 1, we continue this way until we have 20 rows. So continue this way for 20 rows, every time increasing on the uneven number rows, and even number rows are just rows of 1 single crochet. And of course, at the end of each row, don't forget to chain 1 and turn your work. So even rows are worked like I am working now on what's called the wrong side, and the uneven rows are worked on the right side. So just continue this way until you have 20 rows in total, and I will meet you back here. So I've finished my work up to row 20, and this is what your work should look like for now. This is the front side, and this is the back side where the seam is, where we always chain up to go a row. So for the next, before we begin our next row, we're going to take the hook out for a second, and we have to use some stitch markers now. So what we're going to do is we're going to count 80 stitches. All around you should have 160 stitches right now, and we're going to count from the beginning stitch where we begin our rows. We're going to count 80 stitches and mark that stitch. Once we have stitch number 80 marked, we're going to, beginning with that stitch, count 10 stitches in each direction. So we're going to begin with the stitch that we marked. This will be number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that stitch number 10, we are going to mark. Now we're going to go back to that stitch where we started, and if you look at it, it should be an increase stitch. That means that it has another double crochet coming out of the same place as the stitch that we marked. So now we're going to use this second stitch that's coming out of the same stitch as our first stitch to count, and we're going to count 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And stitch number 10, once again, we are going to put a stitch marker in there. So now we have 3 stitch markers. In between them, in between those two yellow ones should be 20 stitches, and at this point you can take this one out. You don't need it anymore. So we are now going to use those 2 stitch markers for our next row. So go back and get your hook, and this will be row number 21. What we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and turn to begin our work. And now we are in the beginning of row number 21. So we're going to yarn over and double crochet back into that same stitch, just as we did in every uneven row until now. But what we're going to do different this time is we're not going to increase. We are going to put 1 double crochet into every stitch until we hit our first stitch marker. So go ahead and put 1 double crochet in every one of those stitches, no increases this time, until you hit your first stitch marker. Okay, so I hit my first stitch marker here, and we are not going to crochet into that marked stitch. We are going to chain 28. Now, when you chain those 28, chain them loosely. Okay, this is where the baby's head will go through when you wear this poncho over your carrier. So we don't want it to be too tight. So chain 28. Once you have your chain of 28 done, go to your next stitch marker, and once again we're not going to work into that stitch that stitch marker is at. We are going to double crochet into the one after it. So yarn over and double crochet into that next stitch. And that's what we have. This will be the opening of that goes over the baby's head, the baby that sits in the carrier. So now you can go ahead and get rid of the stitch markers. We don't need them anymore. So you can go ahead and take them out. And we continue for the rest of the row, putting 1 double crochet into every stitch along until we get to the end of the row. I'm coming to the end of the row, and at the end of this row we are once again going to slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet that we made, just like we did until now. This was row number 21. To go on to row number 22, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and just as we did with the rest of our even rows, this row is going to be 1 row of single crochets all the way around. So go ahead and put 1 single crochet into each one of the stitches all the way around. Now when you get to the chain that we made, this chain that we made on the previous round, you're going to work 1 single crochet into each one of the chains. So just make sure once you get to that chain that you actually do get all 28 of the chains. So you should have over that chain eventually 28 single crochets. Just make sure to count and get the number right, otherwise your stitch count will be off for the rest of the poncho. So go ahead and put 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way along, including that 28 chains, and I will see you at the end of the row. So I'm at the end of my row, and I'm going to slip stitch back into the first single crochet. Then I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and now we're going to go back to doing increased rows on the uneven rows and single crochets on the even rows. So we're just going to continue not exactly, but where we left off, and we're going to yarn over and put 1 double crochet back into that same stitch, and we're going to count 20 double crochets including that first one, and on stitch number 21 we're going to do the increase. So this one was number 1, and we're going to do 20 double crochets including this one, so 19 more. And then on stitch number 21 we're going to put 2 double crochets into that same stitch. 18, 19 and 20. And now on stitch number 21 we're going to put 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So, and this is our repeat now. We put 20 double crochets, and then in stitch number 21 we're going to put 2 double crochets into the same stitch all the way around, including those stitches that we did here over the chain. So those stitches now count as normal stitches in our work. So just make sure that when you work into them you don't twist them in any way, and treat them as regular stitches in your count. So we're going to go all the way around, putting 20 double crochets in a row and then increasing on stitch number 21. At the end of the row we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch just as we did until now. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn and go back doing 1 single crochet into every stitch just as we did on every even row. On the next uneven row we will do 21 double crochets in a row and increase on stitch number 22. And at the end of the row again, slip stitch, chain 1 and go back doing 1 single crochet in each one. So we're just going to continue exactly what we did on our first 20 rows, adding 1 double crochet to our count every time we are on an uneven row, and increasing on the next one, and then going back on even rows doing 1 single crochet in every stitch. And we're going to continue doing that until you feel that your poncho is long enough. Once you feel that your poncho is long enough, and when I say long enough I mean that when you wear it, this is the front, and when you wear it, the length of the poncho is the length that you want it to be, that it covers in the front as much as you want it to cover. And when you get to that point that your poncho is long enough, then come back to the video and I will show you what to do next. Once you feel that your poncho is long enough, then all you have to do is cut your yarn, fasten off, and then we only have the finishing touches, which is pretty much just to put a nice finish to the opening where the baby head is going to be. So what I suggest to do is to just go ahead and do 1 row of single crochet all the way around it, putting 2 single crochets along the side of the double crochets that are on both sides here of the opening, and 1 single crochet into each one of the stitches around. I suggest that you do this loosely. Don't pull too much on your yarn, and don't have your stitches too tight around the opening, because you want the opening to be flexible. When the baby is small, it's going to be no problem to pass the head through here, but as the baby grows, this becomes a little narrow to pass the head through, and so you want it to be flexible so that the poncho would be wearable, useful for as long as possible. So I made this poncho based on my son's head measurements. He is now 1 year old, so this should fit up to 1 year. But again, it really depends on how tight you crochet, how loosely you chained when you chained those 28 here, and of course, as I've said, how loose you will make the border. You want to give this as much flexibility as possible. And so just go ahead and do 1 row of single crochets with the right side of the poncho facing you, so that this 1 row of single crochet around will be made on the right side. And once you're done with that, all you have to do is hide your tails and your poncho is done. Here comes the design choices. You can put a fringe on the bottom, you can put a nice border on the bottom if you don't like the way this looks with just a simple single crochet line on the end. Then you can go ahead and put a nice border to it, maybe a shell border or just a fringe, as I've said. You can make cuffs if you like for the arms. Just pick up about, I would say, 36 or 40 stitches around and make a nice cuff. That's an option too. Or you can leave it like that, the way I did. I kind of like it like this. I like the simple look, and I feel like it goes with anything, and I kind of find this to be a nice fall color. This poncho, depending on the yarn you're using, might be good for the fall time. I'm not sure if it's warm enough to fit winter, but again, it depends on what kind of yarn you used. If you use a little bit chunkier yarn or something that's a little bit more maybe wool in there, then it might be warmer. And depending on where you live, might also be wearable in winter time, or of course if you wear it under a jacket, then it can also fit winter. This one is really, really nice on the skin, I must say. I have been trying this on as I was crocheting it to make sure that the size is right, and it's really nice on the skin, and it's not itchy or anything. So I mean, only the head of the baby will be coming in touch with the poncho itself, or maybe the arms when they come out of the carrier here on the sides. But this yarn is really fitting, I think. So if you find anything that's any similar to this yarn that I showed in the beginning of the video, then it would be a good choice. Of course, if you make this whole thing out of baby yarn, then this would be amazingly soft. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, and hit that subscribe button. I have many other tutorials on my channels. I have a lot of interesting videos on there. I do yarn reviews, I do giveaways, and I have my very special Christmas project going on at the moment, of course depending on when you're watching this. But just go back to my channel, look for my other videos. I have a lot going on there and much more to come. And if you want, you can also visit my Facebook page. I will put a link to that in the description box below this video, where you can write me, send me pictures of things that you made, just post general questions, your opinions of my channel, or just pop by and say hi. All the information about what's going on with the channel and news comes up there as well. So That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.